Hi friends, welcome to lesson 1 this week in poetry. It's called Organizing a Poem. Let's begin. Writers, last week you learned how to view objects with poet's eyes, to not just use your regular eyes, but to give life to the object. Remember our last poem from last week, titled Ceiling by Zoe Rider-White. She wrote about the ceiling, and this is the poem she wrote. The ceiling is the sky for the classroom. So she viewed the object of a ceiling as something that could come more to life. She made it more creative. She used her poet's eyes. So today I'm going to teach you how poets organize their poems. In class, we talk about keeping our desks neat and organized. I wonder if this means the same with poems. Let's find out. So when it comes to poetry, writers use something called stanzas. And stanzas are like paragraphs in a poem. It helps the writer and reader see when a different idea is being mentioned. It also lets the reader know how to read the poem. So when we look at this poem right here called Trapped by Dave Crawley and illustrated by Tamara Petrosino, we see that there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stanzas in this paragraph. And we know there's 5 because there's that little gap of space between each section, each stanza. We know there's 5 different sections here, 5 different stanzas. So let's read a little bit. I can't get up. There's a cat on my lap. What a terrible time he picked for a nap. Our next stanza begins. I can't get up. No dinner for me. So we see at the beginning it's talking about what this poem is going to be about, and then it changed a little bit because we've got a new piece of information about how they can't get dinner. We move on to the next stanza. I can't play games or watch TV. So it's giving a list of more things they cannot do with this cat on their lap. So those are stanzas. Then we move on to line breaks. And with the line breaks tell the reader how to read the poem. It allows the poem to flow and sound nicely. Poets take their time and see where there should be a line break. So if you look here at our line breaks, everywhere the line stops, that is a line break. So we have quite a bit. So that helps us know how to read it. I can't get up. There's a cat on my lap. I have a little bit of pause each time I go to my next line. If I didn't have line breaks, this is what it would sound like. I can't get up. There's a cat on my lap. What a terrible time he picked for a nap. I can't get up. No dinner for me. Oh my goodness. I wouldn't know when to pause. It wouldn't sound very nice. It wouldn't flow very nicely. So poets really listen and see where would be a good spot to pause that poem and then write my wording on the next line. So it's a lot about listening and seeing what sounds best. Lastly, we talk about white space. Let's find out what that might be. White space. Oh wow. Oh my goodness. Okay. Look at this poem to the side. It's called In a Twist. There's something special about this poem. So what is white space? White space is where and how the author puts the poem on paper. This is an example, or this example has the poem in a picture form of a little twister. Poets are creative and write their poems in many ways. So, friends, as poets, we have a lot of freedom on how we put our poem on paper. So this one, they made it so it kind of matches the title and what their poem is about. So poems can be written in different ways. I've seen poems written in little spiral forms. Poems written in a way where it might be a shape of a cat, might be a shape of a cup, might be a shape of maybe like a circle. So there's different ways, and you can put your poem in different parts. You have that freedom to be creative. So writers today, you are going to create new poems, still using poet's eyes, and now thinking about how you will organize your poems on paper. Think about how you want the reader to read your poem and be creative. So think about those line breaks. They need to know how to read your poem. You can revise an old poem from last week with using what you've learned today, or write a whole new poem with what you've learned so far as a writer. So let's be creative, let's get to work, and let's go.